Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Deborah Wendorf with Divine Jubilee Ministries, and I have a little teaching I'm going to do today. So if you don't like teachings, then you're not going to like this video. But it's come to my attention that some people, the way things are in the world these days, some people don't know what Palm Sunday is, or they don't know what Easter is, what it's about. They don't have any idea what the spiritual or the religious part of that is. So I'm going to do a little bit of teaching today. First of all, since we just had Palm Sunday yesterday, I wanted to explain a little bit about where that came from. We're doing this out of the book of John because he talks about it all the way through the experience. And this is the Passion Translation, of course. And so I just wanted you to understand a few things about Palm Sunday. It says that it was 6 days before Passover that he had just healed Lazarus and raised Lazarus from the dead. So there's our first experience with being raised from the dead. But he raised Lazarus from the dead 6 days before Passover. And then he goes into Jerusalem, and which would be one of the days of the feast days and stuff, getting ready for Passover now. And he goes in, and on the 12th verse, I believe it is, let me see, 12:13, it says this: "The next day, the news that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem spread through the massive crowd gathered for the feast. So they took palm branches and went out to meet him. Everyone was shouting." Listen to what they were shouting. They took the palm leaves. That's where Palm Sunday comes from. It's the palm leaves. Listen to what they were shouting. "Lord, be our Savior. Blessed is the one who comes to us, sent from Jehovah God, the King of Israel." That's what they're shouting as he's going into the city. They have palm branches. They put those down, and he's going by on a donkey, and they're putting their clothes on the ground and everything. So they're acknowledging King as he's going into the city. This is 6 days or so before Passover. So there's that. So not even a week later, which is, which 6 days before Passover, that's about basically a week our time. A week later, he is in a different situation. Jesus is in a different situation. And those same people, quite possibly, were saying something totally different. So this was, the Palm Sunday was discussed in John 12. John 12, the chapter was number 12, and the verse was 13. And then not even 17 chapters later, in John 19, listen to what happens now. Listen to what they say now. Those same people, a week later, on Passover, or nearing that time, listen to what they say now. "Then Pilate said to the Jewish officials, 'Look, here is your king.'" Remember, last week they had declared he was king. "But they screamed, 'Take him away, and crucify him.'" So now you got a week later, you've got a totally different scenario, totally different words being uttered. Before it was king, blessed is those who come in the name of the Lord, and things like that. And now we've got them screaming, "Crucify him." The same, same person, 1 week difference in time, and now look, that's where we are. So Passover lambs in Jewish tradition were sacrificed on Passover Day. And so Jesus, being the Passover lamb, symbolic what God was teaching about all through the Jewish history, he was foreshadowing this whole experience all the way back into Abraham's time. He was foreshadowing this event right now. And so now we've got a crucified Jesus. He's been buried in a tomb. And then in chapter 20 of John, listen to this. I want you to hear this. This is where we call it Resurrection Sunday. It probably really wasn't on Sunday. The crucifixion really wasn't on Friday. I mean, they celebrate Good Friday, but it really wasn't. It was more like on a Wednesday, but let's not get bogged down in all of that. But it was probably a Wednesday more, because it says he was in the earth 3 days and 3 nights. 3, not 7. 3 days and 3 nights. So in order for that to happen, it would have to have been on a Wednesday. But either way, so what we now call Easter, what we celebrate we give it a pagan term, which is Easter, when it has bunnies and rabbits and all that stuff, which has really zero to do with what Resurrection Sunday is really about. But anyway, here is the story from John 20 about the good part. Called the empty tomb, it says. Very early Sunday morning, before sunrise, Mary Magdalene made her way to the tomb. That's where Jesus had been. And when she arrived, she discovered that the stone that sealed the entrance to the tomb was moved away. That was a big, big stone, by the way. So it didn't, not some little girl come by and move it. That wasn't possible. So she went running as fast as she could to go tell Peter and the other disciple. The other one that Jesus loved, which happens to be John, who's writing this book. She told them, they've taken the Lord's body from the tomb and we don't know where he is. That's what she thought. Then Peter and the other disciple, which is John, jumped up and ran to the tomb to go see for themselves. Don't you love it? We have to go see for ourselves sometimes. They started out together, but the other disciple, John, outran Peter and reached the tomb first. He didn't enter the tomb, but peeked in and saw only the linen clothes lying there. And when you buried somebody, you wrapped them in linen. And the clothes were there, but the body wasn't. Then Peter came behind him and went right into the tomb. So Peter, he's always that jump in. He was the one that wanted to walk on water, and he was the first one to step out of the boat. And here he is, first one to run into the tomb, just runs right in. He too noticed the linen clothes lying there. But the burial cloth that had been on Jesus' head had been rolled up and placed separate from the other clothes. So this was a very detailed thing that John is recording, that face cloth that had been on Jesus' head is now folded up and placed very neatly. So in other words, the body's not there anymore. Then the other disciple, who had reached the tomb first, went in. Now John goes in. And after one look, he believed. For until then, they hadn't understood the scriptures that prophesied that he was destined to rise from the dead. Where to go? That's it. He was destined to rise from the dead. And this had been prophesied for years and years and years, decades, centuries. And there it is. So that's what our Resurrection Sunday is all about. Is Jesus is raised from the dead. The offering has been accepted by God. Forgiveness of sin for everybody. Everybody that wants to receive that and accept that and take that as their own, it's for everybody. And so the resurrection of Jesus is a way of God saying the sacrifice has been approved, it's been accepted, we're good. And it says that day that the veil in the temple was ripped from the top to the bottom, and it was ripped open. God did that. He was saying that now you can come into the veil, and behind the veil, you can come into my presence and have immediate interaction with me without having to have a priest do it, without having to have somebody else intercede for you. You can come into what they called the Holy of Holies. You can now come in there yourself and not have to be worried about being struck dead like they used to be concerned about. So, basically a real quick teaching about Palm Sunday, why that is, and then why we call it Resurrection Sunday, because Jesus rose from the dead 3 days later, like he said he would. And there are people out there today, if they're not churched and not being taught, so people have no idea what this is about, why we celebrate this, why this is such a big deal. They have no idea because they haven't been taught that. So I want to do a real quick teaching. I know it's real short, but real quick teaching about that so people would understand, because it came to my attention that people are saying, well, what is it? What is Easter? What is it really all about? So here's your quick video to help explain that. So hopefully that helps, and I will see you next week. Have a blessed day and have a great Resurrection Sunday.